Hello and welcome to our next tutorial in this series. In this tutorial here we're going to look at menus, making a main menu, and on that main menu having a play button that will play this level, and that will putting in a slider that can control audio levels. So we're not going to custom make buttons, we're just going to use built-in Unity buttons. We'll come back and make custom buttons another day, but they're easy enough to make. For my menu here I have, where's Blender? So I've rendered out this image here with an alpha channel in the background. So in the render settings here, somewhere, there we go, transparency here at the bottom right under film. Turn on transparency, render it out. So in Photoshop I will drag and drop that here, place my mech somewhere here on the ground. Gonna duplicate my layer. Okay, go to my adjustments on my levels and make it black. And then I'm going to go edit, free transform, and basically I want to turn this into some sort of shadow. That will do there. And then take this layer here and we'll reduce its opacity and we'll give it a blur. So we'll go filter, blur, and is there a directional blur here? Motion blur will do it, yeah. So I will increase that. There we go, too much. There, just to kind of keep in, like the rest of the shadows seems to be sort of blurred horizontally, so maybe that's a bit too much. Bring it back a bit there. Okay, so let's go to shadow, and then I'm gonna take this background which I just found on the internet, I didn't make that, and I am very crudely going to select that there and feather it by about say 50 pixels. And then do the same here, so to try and make sort of a fake depth of field. So Gaussian blur, let's see if we can, not too much, but there, and hit OK, and that feathering should have been up, so maybe okay. So now we can take these two and just move them over to the side a bit. So move that over there. Kind of make room for our menu items here. Now this image here, if I go image size is much bigger than what we want. I'm going to make this 1920. What happens when we do that? No, so 1920. But yeah, that's perfect there. So I'm going to bring in the assets as if we're making a HD game, but in reality we probably won't make a HD game, we'll probably make something a bit smaller, but at least we can scale up to HD if we want to. So what did I do there? New? No. So file, save as, and we're going to put this into our desktop. There's the game, into the assets, into the sprites, and we're going to call this main menu BG, and we'll save it as a JPEG because I don't need any nope, not a JPS, just a normal JPEG. There we go, and save. Now most of the other files that are in there are PNGs, but that's okay. So that'll load in here, and that's it there. Grand. So how do we make a menu system here? So we're going to go File, New Scene, and immediately save that scene. So we're going to go Save Scene As, and we're going to our Scenes folder, and we'll call this Main Menu. Okay, and there's my main menu camera. Let's give it a white background. We don't want skybox, we want solid color, and we're just going to drag our sprite in. So as you can see now, so with 1024 by 768, you know, so our resolution's starting to become important now. Yeah, so we've been working with this aspect ratio here, 1024 by 768. So I'm going to actually leave it like that. I'm going to drag this sprite a little bit to the right, and that works there for me. So maybe move it up a tiny bit so all my excellent work on the shadow can be seen. So that's going to be our main menu. That's going to be the backdrop for it. We're going to create a UI component. So we're going to create text, and my UI text is over here. It's called new text. So we're going to call this, my silly name for this game is my mechanical animal. There we go. Now, let's take that and up the font size. Oh, not too much. So let's find this. There it is there, my mechanical animal. So it's down here in the bottom left. So let's move this. Now, it's in a box, so if I increase the font size too much, it starts to disappear. So I need to actually make the box it's in bigger to house the larger font. So I suppose the most important thing here will be width. So there we go, my mechanical animal, and we will move that up to there. Now I'm gonna we'll just call this title, and we can come back and change that and change font color and put something behind it, or you know, it's just a title. I could have, you know, made it in Photoshop and made it fancier and nicer. Now the reason you wouldn't necessarily make it in Photoshop, just on a slight tangent, is I could animate it here, so I could have the animate and the text animate on once the game began. So that might be one advantage to not making it in Photoshop. Okay, so let's make some. The purpose of this tutorial is buttons and audio sliders. So we're just going to use the generic ones for now because we haven't used them before. And just to point out that we have a canvas, so this is going to be which is main menu, HUD, and we'll leave the ecosystem there. So inside of this now, I want to create another UI element, and I want to create a button. There's my button. So inside of a button is a text field, and I get to choose what's in the text field. So I'm just going to go play game. Now, again, I can change the size of things, the font size. If I make it too big, the font will fall outside of the button, etc. So we'll rename this button play, and we'll press F to focus on it, and I'll zoom out a bit so we can see it on screen. I'll move it over here slightly and up a bit. So that's play game. Maybe it should be there. Yeah, the positioning of it is purely aesthetics. So now let's press play. So there's my button, and you can see it changes color when I click on it. Now we haven't added any functionality to it, but that's it working. So let's have a look at some of the attributes of this button. So it's got a button script on it. The normal color is white, so let's see what happens when we change that. So I've made a slightly grayer background. Highlighted color. So I could have, let's make this slightly let's make it slightly blue to fit in with sort of the color theme. Let's hit play, and you can see it's moved slightly blue. Maybe that's too much. So we'll click on this and bring that slightly more towards grey, and then press color. So these are fairly straightforward. Now this is what we're interested in here. Okay, so this is list is empty. So on click. So it has a function on click. So when I click this button, do something, and I have a list of what I can do here. So let's go plus, and it says there's no object and there's no function to carry out. So on click, nothing is happening. So I've got a script here called change level. I'm actually using old code. So this line of code here, application.load level 1. There's a new set of so when the API changes in Unity, when they change sort of the libraries and the some of the background stuff, some of the instructions that you code in have to change. So this has been replaced, this piece of code, with a thing called a scene manager. But I'm not sure if in the college the version of Unity uses this or uses scene manager. So this won't return me an error. It'll just tell me that the code is defunct, but it'll still work. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag it onto the button. Now, I actually could place it anywhere. I could make a game controller and put it on the game controller, but for now we'll just put it on the button. So if we go, and there's the script there. So now it's saying on click, there's no object. So I'm going to drag itself here because that's where I've placed the script. If I place that script on the game controller, I would now be grabbing the game controller and bringing it in here. But now I'm going to bring the button in, and it says, what function do you want? And listed is so if all of these built-in amazing presets that you can use. But we have this one here, change level. We made this ourselves, and this is our function change. So if we just quickly look at the code, function change. So if I rename that and call that function null and save it, when I go back in here and I go, what function do I want? Well, in the script change level, there's a function called null, and that function says application.load level. So let's go see if that works. So let's see, just to point out here down the bottom, it's saying application.load level is obsolete. Use scene manager.load scene, which is no big deal to change. However, let us close the console and press play. And press play game. And it says scene couldn't be loaded because it has not been added to the asset bundle. So so that's interesting, or to the build settings. So let's go fix that. So what we have here at the moment is we have two scenes. We have our level 1 and our main menu. So let's just check level 1 is spelled correctly, and it's not. It's a small L, so that wouldn't have worked anyway. And there's no space between the L and the 1. So let's go back here. So level 1. Now over here we've got file, build settings, and over here it says scenes in build, and at the moment there are none. So add open scene. So the open scene is our main menu, and then the only other scene we have is this level 1, so we can drag and drop that in here. Now the order that they're in here is actually very important, or at least the one on the very top is important, because when Unity compiles this game, whatever scene is on the top, that will be the first thing when you load or when you launch the application. That will be the first thing that the player encounters. So if you put level 1 at the top, you won't start with your menu. You'll start with you'll immediately go into gameplay. So the order is sort of important. Once the main menu is put in, the order is not so important. So we're not going to build anything here. We just have to add these both of these levels to this to the build settings in order for Unity to recognize that these are scenes that we want to actually switch between. So now when I play the game and I hit play game, I'm playing the game. So that easy. So let's just run over that very quickly. So we've got our play button, and it comes with, we can change the colors and we can drag in an image here if we want, so we'll look at that another day. We've added a script. The script is very basic. It has one line of code, which is application.load level 1, and we made the function ourselves. It's called our function null, and then we reference that here on the onClick. So the last thing we'll do, which is a nice thing to do, is we're going to add some music, and we're going to add a piece of music that maybe I'll show you in class how to get it not to end itself when the scene is over. But I'm going to, in my head-up display, I'm going to go new UI object slider. And there's my slider. Now again, it's got all of the colors that we can change. We can drop in our own images. For now, I'm just going to position it. I'm not going to try and change any of its settings. But I am going to actually, before I do this, I'm going to call this audio volume. Volume. So I'm going to add another button. And UI button. Now this button I'm going to turn off interactable. Okay. And why am I doing that? Well, I need to tell or indicate to the user that this button is not to be pressed, that this button is basically going to be part of the slider. So this is going to be called audio, and that's just to indicate that this slider is for audio. Now there's my audio. Let's have a quick click here. Now see how big the text is, what size the font is. It is 22. Let's go down here to this text field and make that 22. Okay. Now, so let's go to the slider. How do I change the volume? It's a very similar process to what we did before. So over here we've got is empty, so or click on value change, sorry, is empty. So we're going to add in a change here. First we need some music though. So on this button itself, now actually I'll tell you what we'll do this for to be good boys and girls. So I'm going to add a game controller, and I'm going to call this audio game controller, and we can put in all of our audio controls on this. So I'm not going to add in a script to not destroy it when I change levels, so this music will end, but I am going to add an audio source, and I have put in a piece of music here, so I'm just going to go to audio clip, and that will be listed here, and all I did was drag that into the game. So my audio source, I can change all sorts of properties of it here. I'll turn on loop so it stays on forever. I'm not going to worry about them now because this is just playing back in the main menu. So this slider here is saying it has nothing to do when the value changes of the slider. So we're going to go plus. Now our audio is not on the button, our audio is on this object, so I'm going to drag and drop that in here. So I want this slider to access something here. Now what do I want it to access? Well, I want it to access audio source. Now what is the audio source? The audio source is the component on this here. I could access its transform and change its position if I wanted, which would be a bit weird, but I could do that. So I could go to the game object and start changing things about it. But what I'm interested in is audio source, and then what do I want to change? I could change its pan, but what I'm interested in is volume. So now when this value changes 0 to 1, we'll change the volume level of the audio that is housed on this object here. So let's just see that working. So let's press play, and I can increase the audio level, decrease the audio level, increase, my mouse, I need a new mouse. So increase audio level, decrease audio level, play game. Now I hope you could hear that change, because I can't, because I have a different earpiece in while recording the tutorial. But that's all we're going to cover for this tutorial here. So what we've got now, we're going to file and save that, and I'll bring this in so you have a copy of it. But this is, you know, so we've got a full or a fullish menu here. So we've got play game, play brings us to the game, and we've got audio playing in the background, and we can increase and decrease its level. And I'll show you in class how to get it to that audio stays and plays on during the level, and is therefore uninterrupted from menu into the game. Cool.